Hello Wolfpack, this is video number 155. In this video I'd like to discuss my diet. Today is the final conclusion video for my diet. I went 14 weeks and I'm happy with the result. I've written out a list of items that I'd like to discuss with you in relation to that and to explain to you what I did for me to lose that weight. I will wing it. I'll try not to edit the video after. The reason being is I've got new videos up and coming in the next few weeks. So let's start at the beginning. First thing is that this video is not a diet advice video. I'm not medically trained. This is just an explanation for what I did to lose weight. This information is provided as is. No responsibility or liability is taken. Use it at your own risk. Always seek appropriate medical advice before from trained professionals. Okay, so first item is that when I started the weight loss, I treated it as a job, understanding that I only get paid if the job gets done correctly. So the payment for the job was the weight was being lost. Or the weight was lost. In order to do the job correctly, you need three things: tools, skills, and experience. In the tools section, you need emergency diet meals, eating of Subway 6 inches, which is a Reliance. I don't particularly like to suggest that, but it does work. Sandwich meat and cup of soups. I've just diet meals. Diet meals in the freezer. These are very important. These are emergency meals. This is a very important tool. They only cost about $2.60 down at Aldi's. When you're hungry and you're starving and you're on your diet, these are fabulous because you come home from a busy day, you've got no food prepared. You can throw one in the microwave and just eat it. I will come back in a little bit to those meals. Measuring cups. These are so critically important to my diet. I'll explain why. If you don't understand it, if you don't understand any of this, please wait till the end of the video because there's an additional section right at the end which will explain many of these items. Food scales. Measuring of food scales so that you can measure out the portion size for pasta. Very important. A routine. A routine is a tool, and this tool you have to use in order to keep having enough food and the correct items, supplies to keep your diet running. Water bottles. Water bottles in the car, water bottles at home, water bottles within reach. If you reach out and you want a drink, you're not reaching out for a sugary drink. You're reaching out for water. Also, make sure you've got them in the car. I always make sure I have them in the car for the EDC. Sandwich meats and cup of soups. These are 99-cent cup of soups from Aldi's. I've got a whole bunch of them. Once again, I'll talk about these later at the end of the video. The next thing, cookbooks. I don't use these books. I read them. But I don't. Family actually cooks my meals, but these are what's called the Simply Too Good to Be True. They are the diet books that my family used to cook, and in each one we go through and plan out our meals in order to figure out what we need for shopping for the week. I don't know, and I've never spoken to this woman. I'm not here to. This video isn't sponsored, by the way, but I haven't spoken to this woman. This is what we use. She can be found on YouTube. but that's what my family use. This is also a Chinese cooking cookbook that we use in order to cook the meals. What those books are diet books. They are very good. I actually haven't read the books per se. I've read the recipes only because family said sit down and help me plan out the fortnightly meals that you'd like to eat. And I said okay, no problem. Next, skills. In order to get the job done, you need certain skills. The ability to cook or obtain low-fat meals. Those books that I just showed you help you increase your skill set by having knowledge in order to cook low-fat meals. The ability to obtain low-fat meals. You just say you've been working all day and you want to, you're hungry, you're tired. How do you eat? You can't just go out and have a junk food meal. So one of the skills that I have found that just a 6-inch Subway is enough to stop you from busting. So you must have that skill set, at least for me anyway. The ability to stick to measured amounts. This is a difficult one. This equals one cup, 250 mils. Having the ability to stick to measured amounts is very, very important. I will come back to that at the end of the video. Become a swapper is the next point. One of the government initiatives in Australia was that you become a swapper and you swap big meals for smaller meals, and that's very important. That's where this comes in, and it's a very, very good idea. In fact, I'm surprised it's not taught in school. Instead of having a large plate of food like this, you swap it for a smaller one, right? That is so important, because when you come to realize that, you realize a lot of stress goes. You realize that you can still have the food that you want, but you just have it in smaller portions. Patience, persistence. You have to be patient with yourself on a diet. At least for me, I was always in a rush. Got to lose weight. I want to lose my weight right now, and I've got to have it right now. Doesn't work, right? Your body takes time. It took time to put weight on. You got to take time to take it off. I went 14 weeks. I lost 14 kilos. It worked out. First few weeks I lost more weight than not, but by the end of the measurement, my final measurement, I'd lost 14 kilos. You have to be. That's nearly 3 months worth of dieting. Persistence. You have to keep going. Plan out 2 weeks worth of meals on a piece of paper and stick to the plan. Now, here in the back of these books, we have somewhere. Yeah, this is an example. Although it's all scribbled out, you can't see it, but each one of the ingredients is listed. But the meals itself, what we have for each fortnight, is written out, and we keep a copy of that. Simply because we know what we like. We've tried it, we've tested it, and that's a 2-week plan for a diet. Then you go down, shop, and pick up what you need. Life happens skill. Now, what does that mean? It's a skill to deal with what happens in life. There are days where things just don't go well. There are things that happen, there's problems. You have to have the skill in order to cope with the life happens, aspect. I will come back to that once again at a later part of the video. Experience. Have food ready, right? The majority of my diet bust was when I was hungry and I couldn't get access to food. If you know you're going to go away for the day, take sandwiches and a cup of soup with you. Have food ready. Make sure that you can get access to when you're hungry. Be prepared for your day. One of my jobs is that I have to look after elderly and disabled people, and we spend hours at doctors. Doctors really just seem to have problems keeping schedules, and I understand that. There's some doctors in the city that just they work from 7 in the morning and they stop at 7 at night, and I feel very, very sorry for them. There's others that are a different story, but make sure you plan your day. Make sure you've got access to food so that you don't bust, so that you do have access to your food. Understanding. A lot of experience is about understanding. Now, a skill is different to experience. A skill means that you know how to do something. Experience understands that you shouldn't do it in a certain way, or there's other reasons for it. I had to understand that it takes me 3 to 4 days to process heavy meals, right? If I'm eating, meals every day and I haven't processed the meal that I have, if I'm eating more meals and I haven't finished processing the meal that I ate previously, it's just going to clog me up. Set a time limit. This is another experience. Set a time limit to complete the diet. 7 weeks or 14 weeks is usually what I schedule. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of the first reasons is that I become bored with the diet. I'm not interested and want a break, but there's other reasons, and there's a specific reason why it's 7 and 14 weeks. In a 2-month period, there's about 8 and a half weeks to 2 months, right? If you do 7 weeks on a diet, it gives you 1 extra week and a little bit in order to have a break and then go back on the diet in about a week, right? You can, have a bit of a bust, go out and enjoy yourself on the food. If you do it for 14 weeks, you've got a bit more time. It allows you a little bit of a break and a rest if you want to go back on it. Next point. 2 weeks to lose weight, not 7 days. Do not expect to lose weight by a certain date. It may come 2 days later. In my experience, I've come to find that my body doesn't allow me to lose weight every 7 days. In fact, as a rule, it's every 10 days that I felt the weight loss. I don't know why, it just happens to be that way. This also comes back to the patience aspect under the skills. Just be patient with yourself. Don't hold yourself to a schedule like as some other people may. When you've finished a meal, wait 30 minutes after eating before deciding if you're still hungry, and eat in small adjustments. Don't have big whopping meals. So if you have your lunch at 2 p.m, wait half an hour after you've finished eating to decide, hey, listen, I'm really hungry. I really, really need that extra meal or that extra portion. I only drank water. I didn't drink any juices or any other sugary drinks, like soft drinks. Only water. I made sure I had bowel movements morning and night. Go to the toilet regularly. I managed my eating times, and I will get back towards the later at the end of the video. I went to bed hungry, but not starving. And once again, that will be explained at the end of the video. Dieted in winter, not summer, because it had the least amount of holidays like Christmas and birthdays and whatnot. There was nothing to interfere with the 14 weeks. I come to find from personal experience, if I start a diet 6 weeks before Christmas, right, when Christmas comes, it's gone, because I start eating a lot. It's better management of time and when I actually go on a diet. This is once again dieted for no more than 2 weeks. Dieted for no more than 14 weeks and then had a break for about 2 weeks. Variety is the spice of life, and it just helps balance it out. Because one of my greatest problems with diets was that I got bored with it. It's like, oh my God, another week of dieting, another week of this. I'm sick of it. I want to have some fun, But that's okay. You have your fun for about a week or two and then go back on it. On the diet. Here's a big one. I did not weigh myself on scales. I went by the feeling of losing weight. The measurements because it just fueled disappointment. What would happen is if I weighed myself about 3-4 weeks into it and I didn't lose the weight that I expected, then I'd bust, right? And it'd fuel disappointment. And that's not what I wanted. When I went by the feeling of losing weight, I just wanted to stay on the diet. I did weigh myself out at the start of the video series just to know what I was like at the beginning and what I was like at the end. This seems like an odd one, but playing my favorite music helped my mental health. You know, you're on a diet, you know, you just play good music that makes you feel better mentally. Next point, stop eating food for how it tastes and ate the food for what it does. So forget about, you know, how great a meal is. You know, forget about how awesome it makes you feel after you've eaten it. If it's no good for you, you know, if you've had packets of chips and you feel great after it, but you're gaining weight, there's no point in eating it. Eat food that helps you improve your health rather than for how it tastes in your mouth. It's a very short-term gain for very little profit. Tried and failed many years before and bounced up and down. Okay, now I have 14 weeks of diet videos, and what it's not showing you in the videos is that for a few years before, I had struggled to cut down and get off soft drinks, get off large portions of food. You'll notice in the beginning of the video, the very first video, I said, oh, listen, I found the secret to dieting for me. That is because what I did want to tell you in the video, which I'm telling you now, is that even though I'd been on 14 weeks of strict diet, I'd been on it for months and months and months before. The reason why I wasn't strictly on the diet is because I was moving house, I was setting up the house, I was dealing with disabled blind people, dealing with lawyers and solicitors with regards to moving the house, dealing with real estate agents. My life was a shambles, you know, and you can't go on a diet and deal with meals and diets and everything else when you've got a whole lot of other stresses in your life. You just can't. So with that, understand that you try and fail for years before and you bounce up and down. Don't be so harsh on yourself. You know, that's what I learned. It's also on second thoughts about that, add that to the persistence skill, which I mentioned earlier. Keep going. Even if you fail, even if you gain weight, that's okay too. That's a failure. You know, you learned something. Hangry. Now, I was speaking to a guy named Phil in Wolfpack, and he said, because I was talking to him about the diet, he said, have you experienced hangry pains? I said, what the hell is a hangry pain? The hangry pain is this. It's a hungry anger pain. And it was only about 3 to 4 weeks after I'd started the diet that I'd started to get hungry anger pains. The only thing that I can mention is stay away from people if that's the case, right? Because, you know, if you're angry, you know, and you're lashing out at someone, it's no good for them, it's no good for you. Just explain to people, listen, I'm on a diet, I'm slightly cranky, please, just give me the room. Next point, give me the room that I need. Next point, walk everywhere that's possible. No lifts, no escalators, try and take stairs up if possible. Walk everywhere. Don't, you know, if you've got to go to the shops and they're within walking distance, go for a walk. You know, I'm not saying give up your cars, I'm just saying increase your exercise. To add to this, and which I haven't written down, might be a question you might want to ask me, is did I join a gym? And the answer is no, right? Why didn't I join a gym? I'll tell you why. My life is so busy. My life is so hectic. I literally run 3 people's lives plus Wolfpack. I don't have the money for a gym. B, I don't have the time for the gym. And 3, I'm always on the move, right? Whether it's up the stairs, downstairs, in the garden, you know, looking after medical requirements, seeing doctors, etc. So don't. So for me, I didn't need a gym, but your situation may be different. Understand the concept. Okay, there's a very important concept. There was times in the night time where I just wanted to eat. I was very, very hungry, and I went to bed hungry. But I came to the simple conclusion that I needed to understand it, and I enjoyed it once I did. And the concept was this: I wanted to lose the weight more than I wanted the food. And when I understood that, it was easier to go to bed with the hunger pains than it was to not. Next point: eliminate as many stresses from my life as possible to help reduce stress and help stop overeating. Now, there's a word here on this, and that's overeating. You know, I never wanted to stop eating. I never wanted to punish myself, but the word is over. I had to learn that I was over eating a normal portion, and I will say it bluntly, I was just being a pig. I was having 3 plate sizes like this of food every day, at minimum 2, sometimes 3, and I was just being a piggery. I swapped it ultimately to 1 plate, right, with a measured portion of 2 cups of this, but I'll get to that shortly. So reduce the stresses if possible. Sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes you're covered in stress, and that's where a lot of the problems is, because when you're stressed, you can't make meals for your diet. You can't prep because you're too stressed to do different things. You can't be in a very positive position to put yourself on a diet. At least that was what my problem was. Next point: be forgiving. If you make a mistake and you have to have a soft drink, what you really want to, you say, listen, if I don't have a soft drink, or I don't have a junk food meal, right, of my favorite type, something really bad's going to happen. That's okay too, right? So long as it comes back to the old 80-20 rule. If you're doing things 80% of the time really good, and the other 20% not so good, that's still better than doing 80% bad versus 20% good. Learn to forgive yourself. Learn to be a little bit more flexible. Okay, move on and work harder at doing it right next time. Because there's some days where the stresses become so bad. They really do. Now, this is something that I had to understand. The next point: I was taught to have 3 solid meals a day, morning, noon, and night. What I come to realize was that that's bad for me. I had to retrain myself to allow my body time to consume the food that I had. So what I would do in the past is in the morning, I'd have a big plate of food, right? And then lunchtime I'd have a big plate of food, right? Dinner I'd have 2 big plates of food. During the day, I'd have snacks. During the day, I'd have, chips. I'd have, lollies. I'd have jelly beans. I'd have, anything I could lay my hands on, right? You can't do that. It's not a good thing. It's not good for your health. You know, if you're not hungry, because I was eating when I was full, right? If you're not hungry, don't eat. It's a very simple concept. You know, when I was young, it's like, you got to eat, you got to eat, you got to eat. That's what my family and friends would tell me, and it's wrong. It's not right for me. Right? Come to find that, eat when you're hungry and don't eat a lot. I'm going to tell you, at the end of the video, I'm going to talk to you about a 19-hour non-eating window, and that'll come up shortly. Coming back, one of the last points in this section is slowly come off the food. As I mentioned, although it was 14 weeks, over the last few years, I've slowly cut down off the food, right? Slowly. Once again, not eating 3 solid platefuls of food in the evening. Have 1. Do it slowly over time. Don't don't rush out and say, listen, I'm going to go on the diet, I'm going to lose all this weight, it's going to be strict. Nah. What happens is, for me, I find that leads to failure, simply because I would be that hungry and that sore and that painful that I couldn't cope. And it's not that it was too hard, I could have done it, but there's no point to it. If there's no point to the suffering, why? Right? It's called about a balanced lifestyle. Next point. Daily eating schedule. There's two aspects to this, and I'm going to swap over to this piece of paper here. This represents 3 days, right? One 24-hour period, another 24-hour period, and a third one. I want to show you this, is that in the first starting at midnight, you've got the first 6 hours of your day, then you've got the second 6 hours. The first line represents your day split into 3 lots of 6. So you've got 6, 12, 18, 24. This is very important. It's important because it's part of your schedule, and you've got to understand that 2 lots of these, so the first 6 hours, right, usually you're sleeping, so this one, but the one from the night time is usually where you're not eating. On the second line, I'm going to show you where I was eating. So I would start off in the morning and I was eating at maybe 7 o'clock. I was eating at or snacking at 9 o'clock, right? I was having a lunch at 12 and 1, right? And then I'd have dinner about 5 o'clock, and then I'd be snacking in the night time. This was my usual routine, right? Across the day. That is what I was originally doing. That, and if you'll notice throughout the day, right? Because you got to understand that between 6 and say 10 at night, 6 and 10 at night, you sleep, or I was sleeping, and then all the way through the day I was eating. And understanding this time management is very important, at least for me. Why was this important? Is that ultimately I was eating, and there's no time in the 24-hour period for my body to get rid of anything, right? I wasn't going, for a bowel movement too often. If it was like once a day, and it's not good for your body, at least for my body anyway. So what I did is I modified my schedule, my day. And this is what I did. It was decided that at 10 a.m. I'd have breakfast, and at 2 p.m. I'd have lunch. All right, this row will represent the actual diet schedule. So from midnight till 10. No, sorry, midnight till 6. I'll go about this way. Midnight till 6. And from about 10 till midnight, those hours I would sleep. This hour I wouldn't eat, and I wouldn't eat here, and all meals would finish by 3 p.m. I prefer about 2 p.m, but all meals, and I'd only eat 2 meals a day, which allows a 19-hour window from say 3 o'clock, right? It would allow me allow my body to process the food that I've eaten, right? And I would only have 2 meals a day. The morning meal at 10 a.m. was a very light meal, and the main meal, which is a standard full meal, was at 2. But I will tell you now, it was between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, because you can't always, eat at 2. Now, daily eating schedule. Summary of 2 meals during the day, which is 1 light meal at 10 and 1 meal at 2 p.m, or between 2 and 3. Breakfast at 10 a.m. usually was consisting of 1 toast with a slice of cheese, or 1 slice of toast with mushroom with garlic, no jams, no butters. when I got sick of that, you know, because after 14 weeks of toast with cheese or mushrooms, you know, I swapped to one slice or one crumpet, which is this, toasted, with 1 teaspoon of jam, and then that gave me three breakfasts which I could rotate. Personally, I prefer the crumpets because they're a lot less, they're not as heavy as the bread, but ultimately that was what it broke down for the morning. So a very, very small breakfast. The second was a lunchtime meal, and this was always one solid meal a day, and it consisted of 1 cup of rice or 1 cup of meat. So for a main meal, you'd have measured 1 cup of rice if it was a Chinese meal, and 1 cup of meat. Or if I had a soup on a rotational day, I'd have 2 cups of soup in a bowl, and that was it. Where possible, I tried to avoid desserts, but there was just some days that I couldn't, and that's where this came in. As a rule, I tried to have the smallest measurement possible for desserts, but ultimately, these are cartwheels. These are bought at Aldi's. They're also known as wagon wheels under other names, and they're just a small portion of dessert. I just had 1 of them, or I had a fruit, or I had I had 2 lollies. So if there was meals like pasta that I wanted to have, I would have 100 grams of pasta per person, which was measured out when uncooked, and then an appropriate level of sauce, but no more than 1 cup of sauce. This is where it comes back to having the tools for measuring kitchen measurements. Boiled sweets and wagon wheels. Okay, so now life emergencies. This section I've listed as emergency dinners / alternative dinners. Over a 14-week period, things happen, life happens, and sometimes you get bored of the diet. It's like, oh, if I have another meal of a certain type, you know, it becomes frustrating. So a little bit of spice and variety, but ultimately life happens. It's not always possible to have a scheduled eating time at 2 p.m. each day. Sometimes you get home at 6 or 7 and you're tired, and in those circumstances there are a couple of options. One of the first options, if you're struggling, like you've come home, you're tired, you're fed up, is to have sandwich meat on ham with cheese and bread and a cup of soup. Very important, because you can throw this together in 5 minutes along with the sandwich, and you can eat and you won't bust. Second one is emergency meals. Now you can have this as a full meal. So instead of your measured cup, you can have one of these and a salad. But on an emergency meal, you can throw this together. It takes you, I think, 5 minutes to throw into the microwave and heat up, but it is there. You don't have to cook it. It's very easy to deal with. Now, just say, here's another skill, or another plan. You're on the road, you can't get home, it's raining, it's cold, it's wet, you don't feel like cooking. Stop in and have a Subway. I don't really want to endorse specific companies, and I'm not being paid for this video. I'm not being endorsed. There's no promotional or relationship with anyone or any company. These companies are not paying me, but better to have a 6-inch Subway that has 6 grams of fat or less than to have a 12-inch. Better to have a 6-inch than a big, junk food meal, that's got a lot of fat and grease and a lot of thingy. It's an alternative. It's a plan. It's a strategy. Don't let it become a regular item. Let it become a regular stress. But it's a plan. And once again, even if you have a 6-inch, right? It's not the end of the world, but just keep at it. It's better than busting. One last item that I wanted to mention here was that I alternated each days. I had one vegetarian and one meat days, and the reason why I had one vegetarian and one meat day was that I'd have 2 cups of meat on days that I was really, really hungry. Where possible, I would put a vegetarian dish on the second day, because that would allow it to. Now, as I progressed through the diet, I increased my meals from 2 days meat to 1 day vegetable, but that was only once I'd lost a huge amount of weight. The reason being is I was testing to see how much I could have to maintain my weight. I wasn't really going into the diet per se. I wanted to find out how much I could have. So with that, when I was definitely losing weight, it was 1 day vegetarian, 1 day meat meal, you know. But to maintain it, it ended up being a 2 meat day and then 1 vegetarian. To avoid this, and this should actually be up here, to avoid the meals, the emergency dinners, take lunch with you. This is a part of your EDC. If you don't know what EDC is, or EDC bags, start learning it. It's very important. It's part of a life skill. So, but it's outside the scope of this video. And the final thing that I'm going to mention in this is that the reason behind all of this. I realized that I just can't keep eating like this. I can't keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I was 104 kilos at the beginning. And then when I finally realized, like, oh my God, I'm 104 kilos, and then I lost 14 kilos. So I was pretty happy with that. I'll go back on the diet. I am off the diet now, but there's a reason for it. Ultimately, because I'm a prepper, and if a dangerous situation arises, I wanted to be physically fit to be able to cope with the situation to the best of my ability so that I could look after myself, my family, my community, and Australia. All right. Other reasons were I had sore joints, sore muscles, cracking joints, difficulty moving. I didn't do it for the looks, and started having difficulty getting up out of bed. Now, you know, if you're having difficulty getting up out of bed, for me, that's a horrible sign that, something's wrong. So with that, you got to have your reason behind your diet. Maybe it's for your kids, maybe it's just for yourself. Maybe it's just to do better. I don't know. But I needed a reason. That was primarily it. If there's a dangerous situation that presents itself, there's a car accident, or there's a fight and an argument, I needed to flee a situation, there was danger present, I needed the health and I needed the physical fitness in order to deal with that. And I can't do that at 104 kilos. Now that I'm 90 kilos, I think it was, I am a lot, it's a lot easier to move. I get out of bed without any problems. My joints no longer crack, and there's many benefits. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. I don't promise to answer them straight away, but I'll do my best when I can. Respect who you are, respect where you come from, and respect, honor, and pride. Thank you, Wolfpack. Bye.